Welcome to the Explainer. Let's just jump right in, because today we are going after the absolute biggest myth in human history. We all know the classic story, right? Humanity conquered nature through sheer solitary genius, massive brains, and unparalleled invention. We picture ourselves separating from the wilds to build our modern world. But that narrative completely skips the most crucial chapter. We didn't conquer nature by standing apart from it. As you're going to see today, we survived and thrived by literally attaching ourselves to the very creatures that terrified us. To really wrap our heads around this, I want you to mentally drop yourself right into the Pleistocene epoch. We're talking roughly 2 million years ago. Imagine you're standing there. No tools, no clothes, no fire, zero shelter. You are completely naked and unarmed. What do you think your actual chances of survival are? Spoiler alert, they were astronomically low. And to understand why the stakes were so incredibly high, we really have to look at the competition. Because look at who we were up against. You've got Ice Age apex predators roaming around, saber-toothed cats rocking 6-inch canines, giant short-faced bears that could literally run down a horse. And then there's us. Early humans had paper-thin skin, utterly useless nails for defense, and absolutely zero venom. We couldn't outrun a lion, couldn't overpower a hyena. By any standard biological metric, we were pretty pathetic. Honestly, we were just walking Happy Meals. So how on earth did a defenseless ape manage to take over the planet? Section 1. The caloric crisis, fueling the human brain. Well, it all starts with our very first evolutionary bottleneck. You see, the human brain is an absolute metabolic monster. Think about this. It makes up just 2% of our total body mass, but it demands a staggering 20% of our daily calories. Now, trying to fuel that rapidly expanding energy-hungry supercomputer on a slow, low-calorie diet of just roots and leaves, yeah, that was practically impossible. Biologists actually call this the expensive tissue hypothesis. It's a really strict biological trade-off. Basically, a species can afford a massive energy-draining gut to sit around digesting fibrous plants all day, kind of like a gorilla does, or it can afford a massive brain to think complex thoughts. But you absolutely cannot have both. So, how did early hominids pay that massive caloric bill to upgrade our hardware? The workaround was pretty brilliant. We let other animals do the digesting for us. Now, we weren't apex hunters yet, not even close. We were scavengers. We'd wait for lions to finish up and abandon a kill, and then we'd run in with heavy river stones. We smashed open the thick femurs that the other predators couldn't chew through, all to get at the treasure hidden inside, bone marrow. Marrow is essentially just pure, dense fat. By scavenging this incredibly rich fuel, we could finally shrink our digestive tracts, and that freed up massive amounts of metabolic energy, which went straight into expanding our brains. Section 2. The Ice Age supply chain, surviving the big freeze. But building a bigger brain was just step 1, because pretty soon the climate violently turned against us. The big issue here is a massive environmental mismatch. By design, humans are a tropical species, so as we pushed north into Europe and Asia, we were walking straight into Ice Age tundras. We didn't have the thick fur of a mammoth or the dense blubber of a walrus. Wandering into a frozen, unforgiving wasteland as a hairless ape? We really should have frozen to death in a matter of hours. To survive that, we couldn't just eat animals anymore. We literally had to dismantle them. We kicked off what you could call the animal industrial revolution. We turned animal bodies into our very first supply chain. Hides became portable insulation. Stomachs, we transformed those into waterproof canteens so we could cross arid steppes. Antlers gave us the leverage needed to craft better stone tools, and bones were carved into armor-piercing projectiles. We literally took the defensive weapons of our prey and turned them right back against them. But out of all that early tech, this one thing changed absolutely everything: the bow needle. I know, it looks incredibly simple, but using animal sinew to stitch together tailored, form-fitting hides created a literal microclimate. By trapping a layer of warm air right against our skin, this tiny piece of borrowed animal tech functioned as our very first thermal suit. That was the game changer. It was the key that let us conquer literally any climate on Earth. Section 3. The original GPS and poison testers, navigating the unknown. Okay, so with the cold beaten, we're now facing completely uncharted continents, and we had zero environmental data. How do you survive when you have no clue where the water is or which plants are going to kill you? Simple. We outsourced our intelligence. Animals had already spent millions of years mapping the terrain through trial and error, so we just read their environmental hard drives. Deep, compressed herbivore tracks, those acted like our original GPS, leading us straight to hidden water sources. We crowdsourced our botanical knowledge by just watching local monkeys. If they wouldn't touch a plant, neither would we. They were our built-in poison testers. And if we saw a flock of birds suddenly scatter or the forest went dead silent, that was our larve system screaming that a cave lion was close. We survived by literally reading the wild. Section 4. Dogs and Deep Sleep. The First Treaty. Eventually, though, just observing animals wasn't cutting it. We needed a partner. Think about the matchup. Humans brought incredible stamina, high intelligence, and projectile weapons for striking from a distance. Wolves brought highly sensitive smell, night vision, and fast-twitch sprinting. When you combine those complementary stats, humans and wolves basically formed the most devastating hunting syndicate on the planet. But here's the crazy part. The absolute greatest benefit of the dog. It didn't actually happen during the day. It happened at night. Before dogs, our sleep was terrible. It was light, fragmented, and frankly terrified, because leopards and hyenas hunted in the dark. We basically slept with one eye open. But when we brought dogs into our camps, we essentially outsourced our security. With dogs standing guard, ready to bark at the first sign of danger, humans finally felt safe enough to drop our guard. We started falling into long, uninterrupted cycles of deep REM sleep. And neurologically speaking, that change was monumental. Deep REM sleep is the exact phase where the brain consolidates memories, forms complex cognitive connections, and fosters true creativity. By trusting a former predator to stand guard in the dark, we finally bought ourselves the neurological downtime required to become genuinely innovative. Dogs literally gave us the peace of mind to dream. Section 5. The Invisible Biological Shield. Absorbing the wild. So check it out. We now had the brains, the thermal clothing, and the hunting partners. Naturally, the human population exploded, driving us right into the agricultural revolution. We finally settled down into these dense cities, totally surrounded by domesticated livestock. But this massive lifestyle shift unlocked a terrifying new threat: zoonotic transfers. Measles actually evolved from a disease in cattle. Influenza originated in ducks and pigs. Smallpox adapted from a rodent or camel virus. In the short term, it was an absolute nightmare. These pathogens initially wiped out massive percentages of early, densely packed populations. But in the long term, surviving those plagues forged something pretty incredible. Section 6. The Final Symbiosis. The True Cost of Survival. Let's pull all these incredible threads together. At every single existential bottleneck where humanity absolutely should have perished, an animal adaptation bridged the gap. 2 million years ago, scavenged marrow fueled our brains. 100,000 years ago, stolen hides became our thermal armor against the ice. 30,000 years ago, dogs bought us the deep REM sleep needed for innovation. And during the agricultural revolution, livestock gave us the immune architecture to survive in a crowded world. We didn't just beat the wild, we absorbed it. Which brings us to a final profound takeaway. We always frame human history as a story of us conquering nature, looking at animals as either resources or obstacles. But if you were to remove animals from our evolutionary past, we wouldn't just be less advanced, we literally wouldn't exist. Our bodies, our brains, and our modern societies are quite literally monuments to the creatures that died so we could live. As the saying goes, we didn't climb to the top of the food chain by ourselves, we were carried there. Which leaves us with one pretty urgent question. If we owe our entire existence to the animal kingdom, what happens to humanity if we allow them to disappear? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this totally changes how you view our connection to the natural world.